Hello, everyone. What's going on? This is Jonathan Mactus, the sports judge, and welcome to another episode of Speaking with Judgment, hosted by myself. And I am once again, as always, joined by my good friend, Trey Larkins. Trey Larkins is in the house. We got a jam packed show for you guys. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We got to get into the NBA Finals. We will get into that. We got to get into Frank Vogel and the Suns hiring him to be the next head coach. And then we'll talk about the Celtics. Should the Celtics consider trading for Damian Lillard? We'll get into that. But first, we got to get into the NBA Finals because, as we all know, that's the big thing right now in the NBA Finals. Game 2 was tonight. The Miami Heat made things interesting by tying the series. We'll talk about that. And Trey, I want to get your thoughts on this series, man, because now the Miami Heat tied the series going back to Miami. It's a new series now. I said that the Denver Nuggets will win this series in 6. I'm sticking with that. I think they will pull it off in 6. I just think Denver has too much size. I think they're long. I think they're hard to stop. I think they're a very good team. And I think it's going to take a lot for a team like the Miami Heat to have a chance to beat this very good Denver Nuggets team. But I will say this. Miami's not going to go down without a fight. And we saw that tonight. What is your thoughts on this series?
Well, Jonathan, my thoughts on this series is I feel like the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets just both played great games in games 1 and games 2. I thought in game 1, the Denver Nuggets, they beat the Miami Heat. But I thought in game 1, the Nuggets, they didn't play particularly well. And they didn't really shoot well from 3. Jokic was able to distribute the basketball, had a triple-double in game 1. And Jamal Murray played great in game 1 as well. But they didn't really shoot the ball particularly well. Miami missed a lot of open threes in game 1. They had a lot of open shots. I think Max Strus and Caleb Martin, they combined to shoot like I can't remember the exact number, but they didn't make a single 3-point shot the entire game of game 1. And so, Miami felt confident going into game 2. And you even heard Michael Malone after game 1 talk about how he was telling his team, we haven't done anything yet. We won game 1, but we didn't play well. I don't believe that Max Strus is going to miss all those threes that he missed in game 1 and game 2. So even Michael Malone was concerned for the Denver Nuggets. So we get into game 2, and I thought in the first quarter, the Miami Heat, they came out and they threw the first punch in the game against the Denver Nuggets in game 2, in my opinion, Jonathan. I thought Max Strus got hot in the first quarter, and the Miami Heat set the tone. Now, the Nuggets came back. They went up 15 points, and then for whatever reason, Jonathan, it's like when the Miami Heat go down by double digits, it's like they tell the other team, we got y'all right where we want y'all, because this is the seventh time in the postseason where they have been able to overcome a 10-point plus deficit and win a basketball game in the playoffs. So every time you want to count the Miami Heat out, they always come back and bounce back. I believe that they are a very, very resilient basketball team. And in the fourth quarter, they outscored the Denver Nuggets 36-25. And they had a very, very balanced attack tonight, Jonathan. Gabe Vincent led the way with 23 points. Butler had 21. Bam had 21. Max Strus chipped in with 14 points. And even Duncan Robinson had 10 points. He had a great fourth quarter. So the Miami Heat are a resilient basketball team. And just like you picked the Nuggets in 6, I picked the Nuggets in 6 going into this NBA Finals. But if you are Michael Malone, you're the Denver Nuggets, as you head to South Beach for a big game 3 come Wednesday night, I believe you got to be a little concerned because Miami, they have shown that they can compete with the Denver Nuggets. And so we got a tied series. heading back to Miami for Game 3 on Wednesday night.
Yes, the Miami Heat defeat the Denver Nuggets 111-108 in Game 2. The series is now tied up at 1-1. And like you said, man, you got contributions from everybody tonight. Bam Adebayo scored 21 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. You had Jimmy Butler, who had 21 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists. And Gabe Vincent, who's been phenomenal in these playoffs. He had 23 points, 4 3-pointers, and shot 67% from the field. I mean, it was a collective effort from everybody. And Duncan Robinson even chipped in, had 10 points. I thought he was solid down the stretch. He hit some big shots down the stretch as well. So the Miami Heat have a great supporting cast, and I feel like when those guys show up, the Miami Heat has a chance. This is a team that we constantly write off. We constantly doubt, and as soon as we start to doubt this team, that's when this team shows up out of nowhere, and they say, "Hey, wait a minute, not so fast. We're here to play too, and we're not going to go down without giving our all." And that's what you've seen constantly from this Miami Heat team, and they're confident. They have all the confidence in the world. They believe that they can beat anybody, and I think that's been their attitude. I think that's the way they have approached each series as they played each team that they faced this season, and that's been the Miami Heat, and it's the Heat culture, right? We talk about the Heat culture. They switched things up defensively. They were able to make the adjustments necessary to win Game 2. They knew how critical this game was, and this was a massive Game 2 victory for the Miami Heat. Bam, Vincent came in clutch. Robinson saved the game in the last quarter. I actually give credit to Bam. He's playing good ball right now. He's playing confident. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now. This Heat team is oozing with confidence. And as soon, like you said, as we count them out, as soon as we count them out, that's when they play. That's when they play. I think they like being the underdogs. I think they embrace that role as being the underdogs. I think they like not having the pressure on them to go out there and win because they know that they can go out there and win. They know what they're capable of. And you know, this is the first team that the Nuggets have faced in the postseason that beat them at home.
Yeah.
You know, they beat them at home. And I really thought that the Nuggets were going to go undefeated at home. And the Heat come into their building in a hostile environment on the road and get the win. It's unbelievable. Of course, Jokic was a beast. He had 41 points. And we all know it's impossible to stop him. But for him to stay out of foul trouble, that's another thing, right?
Yeah.
And he still was able to make things happen, which is amazing. You know, because he's that important piece if the Denver Nuggets are going to win. You know, he's the heart and soul of that team. But this Miami Heat team is very impressive. Underdogs. They have been able to handle the altitude with their attitude. They are motivated, they are determined, and we see it constantly, right? Hard work beats talent. Hard work sometimes is what outweighs talent. And sometimes you don't have to have the most talented team because when you look at the Miami Heat on paper, they don't have the most talented team.
They don't.
They don't have the most talented team. They have a ton of undrafted players. They have guys that have peaked at the right time. They have a damn good coach in Eric Spoelstra. I mean, I can't say enough about him. You got to give him a lot of credit. The Heat are really good in adjusting things. They are really good, and you saw them make those adjustments because they have a brilliant mind. They have a guy whose career started in the film room. Then it worked its way to the sideline where he became an assistant coach, and then he became a head coach, and he is one of the longest tenured head coaches in basketball. A lot of people didn't think Eric Spoelstra could win without LeBron James. He's proved a lot of people wrong. He's been able to get the team to the playoffs and to the NBA Finals without LeBron James. Even when they were in the bubble, this team got to the finals without LeBron James. So you got to give a lot of credit to Eric Spoelstra. He's a damn good coach. He understands the game of basketball. He puts his team in the best position to thrive and succeed, and that's what we've seen so far from this Heat team. And the Miami Heat, they came to play, and this was a good game for them. This is a way to boost your confidence. You're going into the next game feeling good about yourself. You can build on this. You got contributions from everybody, and that was great. You got to love this Heat team. They are so unorthodox and unconventional.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how they win games. It's unbelievable how this team wins games and how they were able to get to where they are today. And everyone has this crazy belief that talent wins, and that hasn't been the case. Talent hasn't always won games. What wins games is how the Miami Heat play. The zone defense of the Miami Heat in the fourth quarter was insane, and it dictated the tempo of the game. It was able to slow down the Denver Nuggets. It changed the momentum of the game. The Heat were able to play at their own pace. The Heat were able to take control of the game in the fourth quarter. And I'll say this again, Trey, you can never underestimate the Miami Heat. You can never underestimate the Miami Heat.
Agreed.
Because they continue to impress you every time.
I agree with 1,000%, Jonathan. I echo everything that you just said. When it comes to Eric Spoelstra, I think the NBA needs to be investigated. It should be a federal investigation. And I don't understand how the hell he has never won an NBA Coach of the Year award. Like, how? How has Eric Spoelstra never won NBA Coach of the Year? We need to investigate what the hell is going on with the NBA, because it is a shame that Eric Spoelstra has never won an NBA Coach of the Year award. I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. I think he's the best coach in the NBA. Steve Kerr has Steph Curry. He has Klay Thompson. Michael Malone has Jokic. He has Jamal Murray. Ty Lue has Kawhi Leonard, has Paul George. Okay? Shit. Monty Williams, before he got fired, he had Kevin Durant. He had Devin Booker. All Eric Spoelstra has is Jimmy Butler when it comes to stars on his team and at his disposal. All he has is Jimmy Butler. And to your point, I remember when LeBron was in Miami playing with the Heat. It was LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And I think LeBron was in Miami 4 years. They won the championship 2 out of the 4 years while LeBron was in Miami. And so, because that Miami Heat team was the most talented team in the NBA and they had the big three, people didn't really give Eric Spoelstra the credit that he deserved. But as time has went along, Jonathan, we saw the Miami Heat get to an NBA Finals back in the bubble with just Jimmy Butler on their team. And now here they are in the finals, 3 wins away from another NBA championship for that Miami Heat franchise. It speaks to the greatness of a head coach, of an Eric Spoelstra, and I think he's the best coach in the NBA. I thought he made a big adjustment tonight. I thought tonight they allowed Jokic to be a scorer and not a distributor. In game 1, Jokic was able to play an all-around game, and he had a triple-double. And I think that's when the Nuggets are at their best, Jonathan, when Jokic is a facilitator and Murray's hitting threes, Porter's hitting threes, KCP's hitting threes. That's when the Denver Nuggets are at their best. But it's crazy. When you make Jokic a scorer, it actually helps the opposing team that's going up against the Denver Nuggets. And I thought tonight, Eric Spoelstra's adjustment, allowing Jokic to be a scorer and not a facilitator, is a major, major adjustment that helped the Heat even this series.
Yeah, there was times that the Miami Heat were daring him to shoot, right?
Yeah,
And I agree with you. I feel like when he's facilitating, things go smoothly for the Denver Nuggets, right? When
yeah,
he's a facilitator and when he's a creator and when he's a scorer, that's usually when the Denver Nuggets are impossible to stop, right?
yeah,
They're more dangerous. They're more explosive when Jokic is playing like a point center.
yeah,
Because I mean that's basically what he is, right? He's a point center. The guy can do everything. He could be a floor general. He could be a post up player. He could be anything you want him to be.
yeah.
That's just how great of a player Jokic is. Jokic is on a different level than most players. Jokic is a rare breed. But when you take away his ability to be a playmaker and you make it difficult for him to get his teammates involved, yes, it's usually I noticed that too. It's tougher on the Denver Nuggets as we saw tonight. Let's get to some of the comments here. We got Melvin in the house. Melvin says, first off, put some respect on the Heat. And I think a lot of people have done just that tonight. The Heat deserves a lot of respect for the way they played tonight, particularly in game 2. Clarence says, my guys, the guys huddle is in the house as well. Thanks to everyone watching. Cave Talk Radio. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, big baby Jonathan? He's in the house. He says, what's up? Yeah, so now that the Heat tied this series, what do you see happening in game 3? Now, as we transition in this series, and now this series goes back to Miami. Miami's going home. The series is tied. The crowd will be electric. And Jimmy Butler is going to have to be. I think Jimmy Butler is going to have to be more aggressive, though. I think he's going to have to really set the tone early and drop at least 30 or 40 points. I feel like when he does that, the Heat win. The Heat
Yeah.
win, right? When he's more aggressive and when he's that explosive scorer that we've seen, that usually results in a win for the Miami Heat. So what do you see going into game 3? And how do you think things will play out in game 3?
Well, first and foremost, if you're the Denver Nuggets, if you Michael Malone, you got to demand more from KCP and Michael Porter. They were pathetic in game 2, Jonathan. And I thought that was a part of the reason why the Nuggets struggled, because KCP and Michael Porter were no-shows. And they are in the starting, they get a lot of minutes for the Denver Nuggets. And so for them to not contribute the way that they needed to contribute, I think that was a part of the reason why the Nuggets struggled in this game and why Jokic had to take on more of a responsibility from a scoring perspective. You expect more from Porter and KCP. KCP, not only was he bad offensively, but even defensively. He fouled 2 Miami Heat players on 3-point shot attempts. Like, what are you doing? Like, you are a veteran. We've seen KCP play in an NBA Finals before with your beloved Lakers. So he has experience in these big games, but I thought defensively, he didn't really play well tonight. And offensively, he was a complete no-show. Michael Porter was a no-show. And in order for the Denver Nuggets to be a legit team that can win a championship, they need contributions from their role players like Michael Porter, like Aaron Gordon, like KCP, like Bruce Brown. And I don't feel like they were able to get that tonight from Michael Porter and KCP specifically, Jonathan. So I think for the Nuggets going into game 3, the major thing they need from their role players is production. And I think that will get them back on the right track. So they definitely need some big time performances from KCP and Michael Porter.
Yeah, they definitely need those guys to step up. But when you look at the Miami Heat, man, and what the Miami Heat do so well, they baffle opponents with their defense, mixing up coverages, shrinking the floor, and
Yeah.
shifting between matchups to the point that some of the best players in the world have trouble understanding what exactly is in front of them. I think that's what the Miami Heat do so well. In other words, they adjust. And sometimes they adjust well on the fly.
Yeah, they do.
And I mean, this is gonna be a tough team to beat. I'm not saying that the Miami Heat are gonna beat the Nuggets because I still think the Nuggets are the team to beat in this series. I think the Nuggets just have too much size. They have the length, they have the speed, they have the shot making ability. This team checks all the boxes, right? This team checks all the boxes of a championship team, and they are contenders for a reason, right?
But Jonathan, I think what offsets that size is Miami's ability to hit the perimeter shot at a high level. When Miami hits their threes, it offsets the Nuggets' size. So I thought in game 2, the Heat, they hit their threes. In game 1, they didn't hit their threes. So I thought that was the biggest difference and why the Heat were able to even this series up. In game 1, Miami struggled from the perimeter, and they weren't able to shoot a high percentage from 3. In game 2, it was the reverse. I thought in game 2, Max Strus set the tone in the first quarter with those threes that he made and he hit. So I think that the Nuggets definitely have the advantage from a size standpoint. But if the Miami Heat are hitting their threes, it offsets that size advantage that the Denver Nuggets have over the Miami Heat.
Exactly. And I think this is the Heat team that most people feared. I think this is the Heat team that you don't want to write off because, again, a lot of people wrote off Miami after game 1. They said this series was over. A lot of people said this was going to end in the sweep. I was hearing people saying, this series is over in 4 games. I didn't think that.
Me either.
But I knew how dang good the Miami Heat were.
Yeah, agreed.
I knew how good the Miami Heat were. This team just doesn't go away. This team doesn't go away. They don't care who they're playing. They're not intimidated.
They don't go away. And like I told you earlier, whenever they are trailing on the scoreboard and it's by double digits, it's almost as if they tell the opposing team, we got y'all right where we want y'all. Like, it's been so many times this year in the postseason, Jonathan, where the Miami Heat have overcame double-digit deficits. Like, it happened in the opening round series against the Milwaukee Bucks. In games 4 and in games 5, the Bucks had double-digit leads on the Miami Heat going into the fourth quarter of both of those games. And the Miami Heat overcame both double-digit leads in games 4 and games 5 against the Milwaukee Bucks, and against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it was game 2. The Celtics had a double-digit lead on the Heat in game 2 of that series. And then tonight, the Nuggets were up as many as 15 points tonight on the Heat, and the Miami Heat came roaring back tonight again. And in the fourth quarter, the Heat outscored the Nuggets 36-25. They shot a better field goal percentage from a shooting standpoint. I think the Heat shot 11 of 16 from the floor in the fourth quarter. The Nuggets shot 9 of 16 from the floor. And so they're a resilient basketball team. And again, you can never count out the Miami Heat, and you can't underestimate the Miami Heat. And so this has been an amazing run.
Right. It has. It's been a magical run.
Yeah, it really, really has. I had, like, it's almost as if we, you know how in March we got a Cinderella team that's exactly like that goes on.
They're a Cinderella team.
Yeah, we have, instead of it being March Madness, we have June Madness for the Miami Heat, and it's amazing that they're in this position. And honestly, tonight watching the game, I don't know how you felt about this, but sometimes when I watch games and I watch like playoff series or playoff games, sometimes I think when I'm watching, like, that team deserves to win. Like in the Eastern Conference Finals, I said the Celtics were the more talented team, but the Miami Heat deserved to beat the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. watching this game against the Denver Nuggets, I felt like the Miami Heat deserved to win game 2. Like, they played, to me, harder than the Nuggets played in the fourth quarter. Will you agree? I felt like the Heat deserved to win game 2.
Yeah, the Heat. I would agree. The Heat were the better team collectively, particularly down the stretch when it really mattered.
Yeah.
And I feel like they know everyone always counts them out.
Yeah.
Again, the Heat culture is real. So when people start counting them out, what do? They respond. They always find a way to respond. And I mean, I don't want to say Denver is in trouble, but I will say this, that is now an interesting series because the Heat are not going to go away. They showed us that again, and they're not afraid. They are not afraid. They have proven that every playoff game is the team versus the Miami Heat. They have proven time and time again that they can stand up to anybody, that they can beat just about any and everybody. And this Miami Heat team, you don't want to put anything past them. They always find a way to get it done. They always find a way to win. And I think if they win a championship, this would mean a lot. This would mean a lot to Eric Spoelstra. This would be huge for his legacy. Because now you can say that he can win without LeBron James.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be the narrative.
And that's what I said. I said when they won those 2 championships, when LeBron was in Miami and Bosh was in Miami, they won 2 championships out of 4 years. Everyone talked about the big 3, Bosh, Wade, LeBron, and that was the reason why they were able to win those 2 championships. So Eric Spoelstra didn't really get the credit that he deserved. And so you get to the bubble year, they were able to get to the finals that year, but they ran into LeBron James. And I thought, honestly, that year in the bubble, to me, that was LeBron James' last year in his prime. Like, I don't think LeBron has been the same since the bubble. He's still a very, very good player. But to me, the bubble season was LeBron's last year in his prime. And so they lost to LeBron, and I think it was 6 games. But for him to get the Miami Heat to another NBA Finals, and this is their second NBA Finals appearance in 4 years, I believe this appearance by the Miami Heat, it has Eric Spoelstra written all over it. And we got to give him credit for having his team in a position to win another championship for the Miami Heat. And this championship, if he's able to pull this off, Jonathan, this would be the most impressive championship as a head coach that Eric Spoelstra has ever won. Because this championship would be on another level because this team is not as talented as those Miami Heat teams were under LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. So, we talk all the time in sports about how not all championships are like equal. They're not all equal. Like LeBron's championships that he won in Miami are not equivalent to the championship that he won with the Cavs. Okay? Like, it's just not. And so if Eric Spoelstra is able to pull this off and the Heat can upset the Denver Nuggets, this championship as a head coach from Eric Spoelstra would surpass what he did in the LeBron James era in Miami for sure.
Absolutely. And you just we talked about it. They don't quit. And part of that is because of Eric Spoelstra. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is the wild card in all of this. He's a great coach with lots of experience, and his strength is what makes him unique. He makes adjustments on the fly. And I mean, that's why the number 8 seed has gotten as far as they have. This is a number 8 seed. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Players play the game, and Eric Spoelstra finds a way to lead his team to victory. By making adjustments on the fly. It's incredible stuff. It really is.
It really, really is. But also, as great as Eric Spoelstra was, the biggest difference in game 2 compared to game 1 was Miami and their ability to hit their threes. In game 1, Jonathan, they shot 13 of 39, which is 33% from 3. In game 2, they shot 17 of 35, which is 48% from 3. That was the biggest difference in games 1 and games 2. And that's the reason why we're heading back to Miami with this series tied at 1 game apiece with the pivotal game 3 coming up on Wednesday night. So the Heat, they were able to hit their threes tonight. And I think in order for the Heat to offset that size advantage that the Nuggets have, they got to hit their perimeter shots. They were able to do it tonight. They got to do it again in game 3. But I want to ask you a question when it comes to the Denver Nuggets, because when you look at the Nuggets, Michael Porter and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they combined to shoot 3 of 12 from the floor. I think they shot 2 of 9 from three-point range. How important is it for Porter and KCP to contribute for the Nuggets to be able to win games?
Very important. Look, they gave this dude a max contract. That says a lot right there.
Yeah.
What that tells me is that they have heavy expectations for him to be that player, to be that third option, to be the guy that can be involved in the offense, can score points. To me, Porter is a bit of a liability on both ends of the floor.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to be more aggressive on both ends of the floor. I think if you get more out of Michael Porter Jr. and if you get more out of KCP, this can be a different series. This series could be over quicker than probably 6 games, maybe 5. But I'm still going with the Nuggets in 6. But to answer your question, I think Porter is going to have to be more involved in the offense. He's going to have to make more of his shots.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to be more aggressive and knock down his shots. It's just as simple as that. The Nuggets as a whole, they are potent and cohesive of a team. We know that about them. They are well balanced. They are deep. They have continuity. We've seen that all season with them. That's why they're in the NBA Finals. That's why they're representing the Western Conference Finals. That's why they're representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals, because of how well they played all season. They dominated all season until what? The final stretch of the season where they finished 10-10 on the year. They kind of coasted their way to the playoffs late in the season, and people were pushing the panic button. They were concerned about this Nuggets team. They weren't very sure about this Nuggets team. People seemed to have lost faith in the Nuggets, and they were writing them off. They were saying that this team wasn't good enough to get to the NBA Finals, that this team would get knocked out early in the playoffs. That wasn't true. That was a false narrative. They actually gotten better in the playoffs, because didn't they lead the NBA in point differential throughout the playoffs?
Yeah.
They were simply amazing. They dominated in the playoffs. But a lot of people were counting them out because their defense had fallen apart and they couldn't get it together. But I'm confident that they will get it together in game 3. I'm confident that they will win on the road. I think Michael Malone will stress to his guys the importance of getting a win in game 3 and how crucial a game 3 victory is. It's pivotal for them. And, I think they're well coached. I think they're well disciplined. I think they're fundamentally sound, and I think they will be ready to go. I don't see why the Nuggets would lose in game 3. I think the Nuggets will find a way to win. I think they will respond. I think they know what's at stake. I think they know what needs to be done. And I think, yes, if you get contributions from those guys, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. Joker's gonna do his thing. We all know how good he is. Pressure is on Murray to also shoot efficiently, and I think if they get off to the start they got off to, uh, like they did early in tonight's game, because look, the Nuggets had their way. They had their way. If you watch the game early, they were having their way.
Yeah,
Everything was going their way. They were able to get any shot they wanted. They were controlling the tempo of the game. They were getting out up and down the floor. They were scoring a lot in transition. They were winning the transition battle. They were winning. They were winning the transition battle. They were getting out in the fast break, scoring a lot of points inside the paint, and that's what they do well, right? That's what they
yeah,
do well. But obviously the key is shutting down Jokic's passing game. And like you talked about earlier, when you do that, it's hard for those other guys to get their shots. It's hard
yeah,
for those other guys to get their shots. And we know that he builds up a ton of assists. But if he can't do that, then no one else on that floor, no one else on the floor is really effective. So you got to give a lot of credit to the Heat on that,
yeah,
And the question is, will the Heat continue to play zone? If it worked for them tonight, why not use that strategy in game 3?
yeah. I agree. And I want to give a lot of credit to that Miami Heat bench. They had great bench production tonight. They scored 26 points tonight off their bench. Duncan Robinson had 10 points. Kyle Lowry chipped in with 9 points. Zeller had 4 points, and Caleb Martin hit a 3. So let's give that Miami Heat bench a lot of credit for contributing tonight. They had 26 points off the bench. They didn't play well in the first half, but I thought that Miami Heat bench in the fourth quarter, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, is what helped the Heat get back into the game, Jonathan. The Heat outscored the Nuggets 36-25 in the fourth quarter. The Heat shot 59% from the floor in the fourth quarter. The Nuggets shot 56% from the floor in the fourth quarter. And so I thought the Miami Heat bench is actually what got the Heat back into the game in the early part of that fourth quarter. I think Duncan Robinson, he went on a mini run by himself. Duncan
Yeah.
Robinson got hot
Yep.
at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and the
Yep.
Heat rolled that momentum throughout the entire fourth quarter, and that was the biggest difference in the game.
That
So
was that was the
we
biggest
gotta
difference.
gotta give that Miami Heat bench a lot of credit. Duncan Robinson contributed, Kyle Lowry contributed, Zeller chipped in with a few points and some rebounds, played some defense, and Caleb Martin hit a big time timely 3 in the fourth quarter. So got to give some credit and show some love to that Miami Heat bench.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That bench shot them back into the game.
Yeah, yeah,
Shot them back into the game, and that was the difference right there. You're absolutely right. Here's some more comments from our commenters. We got Dylan. Dylan says Spo is cool, but Jimmy don't get the respect he deserves. Has anyone ever called Jimmy a top 5 player? Most people wouldn't even put him in the top 10. And most people probably wouldn't put him in the top 10 because honestly, he doesn't play well during the regular season. He's not the most consistent player in the regular season.
I don't know about that.
He turns it on more towards the playoffs.
I don't think he really cares about the regular season.
And hey, you know what? The regular season don't really matter as long as you get there, right?
Right. I think he don't really. I won't like if Jimmy Butler actually. I said this on my show last week. You'll never see Jimmy Butler top 3 in the NBA MVP conversation because he doesn't prioritize the regular season. He prioritizes the postseason and the playoffs. And so I don't knock him for it. I understand the caliber of player that he is, but I don't have a problem with how people view Jimmy Butler. I would say he's top 10. I would say he's definitely a top 10 player. But again, like I look at how you perform in the postseason because in the regular season, these guys don't really take the regular season serious, Jonathan. We all know that. The regular season is 82 games. Teams who are underdogs beat a lot of teams who are favored a lot in the regular season. And Jimmy just doesn't really care about the regular season. He doesn't prioritize the regular season. I wouldn't say that he don't play well. I just would say he doesn't care. So because of that, he saves all his energy for the postseason. And for the most part, he delivers in the postseason. He really, really does. And in a series against the Bucks, in game 4, he dropped 56 points. He followed that up in game 5 and dropped, I think it was 42 points. And he got injured against the Knicks. Remember, he suffered an ankle injury in the series against the Knicks in game 1. But he was hobbled a little bit in that series against the Knicks. But against the Celtics, he played pretty well in the beginning of that series. And then he kind of coasted in games 4, 5, and 6. But then in game 7 against the Celtics, with the NBA Finals berth on the line, he dropped 28 points, I believe, on 12 of 28 shooting from the floor. So I think Jimmy Butler has done a pretty good job of coasting himself throughout this Miami Heat playoff run. And I think in order for the Miami Heat to win this series, they're going to need a 40 or 50-point performance from Jimmy Butler at some point as this series goes along. So I think he's done a great job at really coasting for the ride. Tonight, they had balance. Gabe Vincent had 23 points. Bam had 21 points. Strus had 14 points. Whenever the Miami Heat can get balanced and they don't need Jimmy Butler to score 35 or 40 points in order to win basketball games, that really, really helps Jimmy Butler and being able to keep energy up for when the Heat need him to have one of those explosive performances. So I think this was a great, great performance all around by the Miami Heat, and it's just what the doctor ordered. And you may need a 40 or 50-point performance from Jimmy in games 4, game 5 in this series. And so for him to only have to put up 21 and the Heat able to win this game the way that they did, it's a very, very good thing for the Miami Heat as we move forward.
You know what I think it is too? People underrate Jimmy Butler. And then when he turns into Michael Jordan 2.0, everyone wants to say, oh my God, he is this spectacular player. You know, where did he come from? Jimmy Butler is suddenly a top 10 player in their eyes. You know, you hear people talk like that all the time about Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler has always been that guy in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler is him. He is him. That's who he is. He turns it on in the playoffs. He takes his game to a different level in the playoffs. You know, you can have the same conversation about other players, but there are a lot of players who swink in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler doesn't. Jimmy Butler gets better in the playoffs as time goes. And that is what's the difference for the Miami Heat. They just don't quit.
I think it is too when it comes to Jimmy Butler and why we underestimate Jimmy. Because Jimmy doesn't shoot like Steph. He doesn't have the ball handling skills like a Kyrie Irving. He doesn't have the athleticism like a LeBron had in his prime, right? But what he does well is, to me, he gets to his spots. He knows he's not a great perimeter shooter. So you don't see Jimmy Butler shooting a lot of threes. He doesn't settle a lot. Like he rarely settles for threes. He gets to his spot. He gets to those mid-range spots on the court, and he can attack the rim as well. And if he gets fouled, he can go to the free throw line and hit his free throws at a very, very high percentage. So I feel like because he's not as lethal of a shooter as Steph or as athletic as a LeBron is, or doesn't have the handle like a Steph or a Kyrie, we don't really give Jimmy Butler the love that he deserves as a top 10 player in the NBA. But if you look at his production in the playoffs and how he's been able to lead this Miami Heat team to the NBA Finals this year on a team that's not that talented, you got to give Jimmy Butler his credit and the praise that he deserves. He for sure is a top 10 player in the NBA. So next year in October, December, and January and February, when we're talking about best players in the NBA conversation, despite it being only the regular season, because he doesn't prioritize the regular season. He prioritizes the postseason And that's when you get the best out of Jimmy Butler. And that's the reason why the Miami Heat are 3 wins away from an NBA championship. But I feel like because he's not, it's not, when you watch Butler play, it's not really pretty to see. It's not, it's not, you don't look at it and be like, oh my God, like that is amazing. No, his game is pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And that's no shade towards Jimmy. His game is simple, but it's effective. So I think that's why we don't really recognize him as a top 10 player.
Yeah, man. And, before we move on, man, I just want to say this. The grit and grind of the postseason has identified this Miami Heat team, right? It has come to define them. And then when you have a cerebral coach like Eric Spoelstra, it really, really tells you more about this team and who they really are. And I think that's what we've seen with this Miami Heat team. It's
and one more thing, I want to say this real quick before we move on. And I said this on my show last week. Another thing I give this Miami Heat basketball team a lot of credit for is their ability to remain focused. You got to think, these brothers are in Miami, Florida, Jonathan. They are in South Beach, Ocean Drive, palm trees. The ocean is right there, beautiful. It's Miami. And we all know, Jonathan, that when you're in Miami, you can become easily distracted. And somehow, some way, this Miami Heat team remains focused. It's a testament to Heat culture. It really, really is. Because I don't see how they do it. Think about this, Jonathan. Game 3 is going to be Wednesday in Miami. We are in the summer. Have you been to Miami?
I've never been to Miami. I've never been to Florida.
I haven't been to Miami either. But I've heard some stories from my cousins and other friends who've been to Miami. And they tell me that Miami is different. Miami is similar to LA. You out there in LA, you know how it is. It's like LA. It's like New York.
A lot of distractions, yeah.
A lot of distractions. So I give a lot of credit to this Miami Heat basketball team and their players being able to stay focused. Because year in and year out, they are in the championship conversation with the other NBA teams, with the Boston Celtics, with the LA Lakers, with the Denver Nuggets, with the Golden State Warriors. They are always in the conversation. So I give Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and the entire Miami Heat basketball team credit for being able to stay focused. It is understandable if you get distracted in Miami. And these brothers are always focused in April, May, and June.
True that. Real talk. Dylan here says Charlotte cut Caleb Martin, Celtics cut Max Strus. Jimmy is playing with literal bums. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I wouldn't say they're bums because those guys have stepped up tremendously. And when they're knocking down shots, the Heat are a better team as a whole. So I don't know how I feel about that comment. And we got another commenter here. Let's go Heat.
Yeah. Man, it's so crazy because before we move on, Eric Spoelstra, remember when LeBron was in Miami? LeBron,
I do. Yep.
Too highly Eric Spoelstra at one point. Like, because LeBron, he likes to do things his way. He likes to have his entourage a part of the organization and a part of team festivities. When LeBron was in Miami, Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley said, you ain't doing that down here in Miami. Like, you can't have Rich Paul and your entourage a part of what we do. This is a team-oriented event or whatever the case may be. And so I remember LeBron, he wasn't really too fond of Eric Spoelstra. And Dwayne Wade had to sit LeBron down and explain to him the caliber of coach that Eric Spoelstra is. LeBron bought in. and the Miami Heat won 2 championships in 4 years. So I mean, you can. We see LeBron doubt Eric Spoelstra, and Eric Spoelstra has done nothing but do great things even since LeBron James has departed from Miami. And this again, if they're able to pull this off and win the NBA championship, this will be Eric Spoelstra's best run as a head coach, and it will be because Eric Spoelstra got 2 NBA championships on his resume. This will be the best championship run that he has had as a head coach if they're able to pull this off for sure. For sure.
This Cinderella team will go down as the greatest number 8 seed to ever have done it.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%.
As competitive as today's NBA is, and with a bevy of talent that's on display, it's not easy to be an 8 seed and get this far and win the whole thing. It's just not easy to do that.
And Jonathan, think about it. They lost to the Atlanta Hawks in the opening round of the play-in game. And then in the elimination game, they were down to the Chicago Bulls. This one thing I want to say before we move on to Frank Vogel. I want to say this. The Nuggets better win game 3. They better win game 3, Jonathan. Could you imagine if the Heat won game 3, how crazy it will be down there in game 4? Think about if the Heat win game 3, game 4, it would. The Nuggets better win game 3. They got to win game 3. Do you agree with that? Before we move on, if they go down 2-1, the Denver Nuggets in trouble, John.
If they go down 2-1, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
They're in trouble. I agree with that. I agree with that statement. The Nuggets cannot let that happen.
Agreed.
If they let that happen, they're in trouble for sure.
Wait, did Dylan say he would take Big Z over Bam? No. Dylan, stop. Stop it, Dylan. Zydrunas Ilgauskas? No. Bam is better than him.
Stop. What? Is that for shock value? That's got to be.
Man, come on,
no
Dylan.
No way. I'm taking Bam all day.
I'm taking Bam all day over Ilgauskas. Miami has played at their pace in both games, 1 and 2. Buckets is one of the most underrated leaders in the NBA. Yeah.
Agreed. Particularly in the playoffs. He's a different animal in the playoffs. And we've all seen that. But, man, we've been on this topic for a long time. We spent a lot of time talking about game 2 of the NBA Finals and the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets. And now we will move on to a different topic. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns because the Suns have hired Frank Vogel. Yes, the former Lakers coach, Frank Vogel, as the franchise's next head coach. The two sides have worked out a long-term deal. This news broke on, I believe, Saturday or Friday.
Yeah, Saturday.
It was one of those days. Yeah. It was Saturday. And now there's a lot of people who is not happy with this because a lot of people are saying, what exactly makes Frank Vogel a better coach than Monty? A lot of people are saying that they would like to know. Is this a vastly upgrade? How can the Phoenix Suns benefit with Frank Vogel as the head coach? Now, we all know this. I know this because I've seen him coach the Los Angeles Lakers. Vogel is a great defensive coach. Okay? Offense needs some work. But offense shouldn't be a problem when you have Booker and Durant. It shouldn't be that much of a problem. I can make the argument that this is the second most talented team that Frank Vogel has ever had. I'm not saying that he didn't have a talented team in Indiana, because he did. He got that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. So when you look at his resume and when you look at the body of work that he has, he's not that bad of a coach at all. A part of me wanted to see the Lakers get rid of him, but a part of me wanted to see the Lakers keep him as the head coach. I mean, damn, I understand that the championship that the Lakers won came in the bubble, but it still was an NBA championship, and Frank Vogel guided that team to an NBA title in the Disney World bubble. So I mean, he's not a terrible coach. Is he the greatest hire? No. Could the Phoenix Suns have probably done better? Probably so. But I don't think Frank Vogel's a bad hire. Now, I don't think Monty Williams deserved to get fired. I think he was deserving of holding on to his job as the head coach. I understand that the season ended disappointingly for the Phoenix Suns. Things didn't go as planned. The Suns had high expectations. The Suns were hoping to get to the NBA Finals. They thought that they had enough to do it with Kevin Durant. After the trade for Kevin Durant, that moved them into the forefront. And a lot of people just thought that they were the favorites to win it all. They became title contenders as soon as they made a splash to acquire Kevin Durant in the trade. And Monty Williams, unfortunately, took the fall. Now you hire Frank Vogel, hoping that he's the guy that can get you over the hump. I feel like this is coaching musical chairs. It never ends in the NBA. No job is safe. A coach can lose his job, and we've seen it. A coach with a championship pedigree can lose his job. Just ask Nick Nurse. Just ask Nick Nurse, ask Mike Budenholzer. They will tell you the same thing, because both of those guys led their teams respectfully to an NBA championship. And what happened? They get canned because the team doesn't get back, or the team doesn't do enough to get out of the first or second round. It's ridiculous to me. It's stupid. It's repackaging, it's recycling, it's reusing. It's a terrible thing. And I understand that it's a cruel business, it's a cutthroat business. No coaching job is safe in the NBA, and if you don't win, you're on a short leash. If you don't win, your job is in jeopardy.
And I think too, honestly, when the Suns season ended, I was on the fence about Monty Williams, because I said that he deserved another chance to come back with KD, with Booker, and see how they do with the full season with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in the mix, and see how they do next year. But on the flip side, I also said that Monty Williams' job could be in danger because the Suns had got blew out and back-to-back seasons and closeout games at home. They got blew out last year against the Dallas Mavericks in a pivotal Game 7 at home. And then this year, they got completely blew off the floor by the Denver Nuggets in Game 6 of the conference semifinals. So I said when the season ended that it's a possibility that they may move on from Monty Williams. They might move on from Monty Williams. I was hoping that Monty Williams would get another chance, because I feel like Monty Williams deserved another chance, considering he had an NBA.
You there?
It was back-to-back. Yeah, I'm here.
You cut out there.
Oh, my bad. But with those back-to-back losses and back-to-back seasons, blowout losses at home to the Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets this year, I said it was a possibility that Monty Williams could lose his job. Ultimately, he did lose his job. So they bring in Frank Vogel. I believe that from a defensive standpoint, the Phoenix Suns will be better under Frank Vogel. Offensively, with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker as your main two best players, you would think offensively they will be able to figure it out. So I think the Phoenix Suns' belief is if we could get better from a defensive standpoint under Frank Vogel, it will help us be closer to being a championship contender. But for me, Jonathan, when I look at the Phoenix Suns, I don't believe that their biggest issue was coaching. I believe their biggest issue was two things. Number one, DeAndre Ayton got to go. They got to find a trade partner and trade DeAndre Ayton out of Phoenix. I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think that he fits in that Phoenix Suns culture. And I felt like there were times in the postseason this year where he was flat out soft. He was flat out soft. So I think they need to get rid of DeAndre Ayton. And I also believe that they got to improve on their bench. They don't have enough bodies to be a championship contender. And we look at the NBA Finals, right? The Nuggets, they got Bruce Brown off the bench. They got other players off the bench who are contributing. They got Green off the bench as well. You look at the Miami Heat, they got Zeller off the bench. They got Kyle Lowry off the bench. They got Duncan Robinson off the bench. The Phoenix Suns were top heavy, and they didn't have enough depth to be a championship contender. And in order to go on these deep playoff runs, you need to have depth. You got to have depth this time of year. And so the Phoenix Suns didn't have depth. So for me, the biggest issues with the Phoenix Suns wasn't coaching. It was more so them not having enough depth and DeAndre Ayton being too soft. Those were the biggest issues for the Phoenix Suns. And to me, those were the two main reasons why the Phoenix Suns got beat by the Denver Nuggets in 6 games in the conference semifinals.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they just didn't have enough depth. They didn't have a bench. They traded away one of their best perimeter defenders, which was Mikal Bridges.
Yeah,
I thought that was a huge loss.
They had to, though, John.
Just to get KD. Yeah, they had to.
They had to.
They had to, absolutely. I completely agree. But I think Frank Vogel, in the end of it all, I think ultimately he's a great hire. NBA championship winning coach. And I remember how good his Pacer teams were back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a piss poor job in Orlando, but what did he have to coach in Orlando? He didn't have the best talent in the world when he was in Orlando. But I think the Suns are content with this because, look, the Suns clearly want a puppet. Okay, and we know Vogel can be a puppet, right?
Yeah.
He could be a puppet for KD and Booker. I mean, let's just be real. And if they don't win, he's gonna be the scapegoat, like he was in LA, like he was everywhere else he's been. You know, and they would easily cut ties with him if things don't work right.
But I thought they could have went a better coach though, Jonathan. Like, I would have liked for them to try to reach out to Ty Lue. I think Ty Lue got one more year left on his deal with the Clippers. I would have wanted them to reach out to maybe a Nick Nurse. I think Nick Nurse and Ty Lue are both better coaches than Frank Vogel is. I think Frank Vogel is a good coach, but I would have tried to go for a splash hire. To me, Frank Vogel is the safe hire.
Yeah, he is the safe hire. He is the safe hire. I would have probably personally gone with Nick Nurse, but you hear reports that Nick Nurse withdrew, that he didn't find the job. I guess very interesting. So wow. he turned down the offer, really? which I thought was very interesting, and a lot of that can probably do with the fact that he wanted to be in Philly. He wanted to reunite with his good friend Daryl Morey, who he has ties with. So I think a lot of it, I think that played a huge role into why he ended up with the Sixers and became their head coach. But I thought he was my preferable choice to take the job in Phoenix.
Yeah, I would rather coach Kevin Durant and Devin Booker than Joel Embiid and James Harden. Like, what? And I would prefer a warm weather city over a cold weather city like Philly. Give me Phoenix over Philly all day long when it comes to weather. Now, Philly got more tradition than Phoenix has. Right. Philadelphia is Philadelphia. You go to the games. You got Meek Mill at the games. You got Kevin Hart at the games. You got the famous Philly cheesesteaks in Philly that they're famously known for. But Phoenix is a warm weather city. And I would have rather coached Kevin Durant and Devin Booker than James Harden and Joel Embiid. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of surprised that Nick Nurse withdrew from the Phoenix Suns from the Phoenix Suns coaching candidates. I'm surprised he did that.
But maybe we'll see now. Maybe Vogel was not the problem in LA. I mean, maybe he was actually a huge reason why they won.
Well, Darvin Ham did a pretty good job though, Jonathan, this year in the playoffs.
True. But I did like Vogel's defensive schemes. I mean, the only thing I called into question was his rotations and his substitutions.
Yeah, that's understandable for sure. I get where you're going with that.
Yeah. But now, my friend, we will get into our final and last topic. I don't know if you heard of the name Kevin O'Connor, but if you read The Ringer, it is a sports website. It is, I believe, owned or founded by Ben Simmons. I know you know who Ben Simmons is, former ESPN columnist.
Yeah.
He is the founder. He is the founder or the co-founder of The Ringer. And Kevin O'Connor, an NBA writer for The Ringer, wrote an interesting column that read the Celtics should consider trading for Damian Lillard. What do you think? Do you think the Celtics would trade for Damian Lillard? Now, if they were to trade for Damian Lillard, they would have to give up Jaylen Brown in a trade. Jaylen Brown will be the one to go. I actually like this move. I think it's a great move for the Celtics. I think they would get a true point guard. I think they would get a guy who can create off the dribble, who can be an effective scorer for them. That's what they need, because Jaylen Brown is not always a great scorer. He's too inconsistent. Sometimes you don't know where you're going to get from him. At least with Damian Lillard, you know you're going to get a consistent guard. Someone that can score, someone that can, be clutch in the fourth quarter. And I've been saying for a while now that the Celtics, because when you look at the Celtics team, they need somebody. They need somebody who can be clutch, and they need a closer late in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And Damian Lillard can definitely be that guy.
So for me, Jonathan, I went on record saying immediately after the Celtics lost to the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, there were people on Twitter that were talking about how the Celtics should move on from Jaylen Brown. They shouldn't pay Jaylen Brown that Supermax contract. And I pushed back on that. I said that Jason Tatum is 25. Jaylen Brown is 26. The Celtics have been in the Eastern Conference Finals in I think out of the last 3 out of the last 4 years, they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals. They lost to LeBron 1 year. They lost to the Miami Heat twice. They beat the Miami Heat 1 year. And in that 1 year, they also obviously went to the NBA Finals last year. And so year in and year out, the Boston Celtics have been a contender in the Eastern Conference. And I believe that they are knocking on the door at being able to win an NBA championship. And the way that they are built with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I feel as if teams are trying to build their teams like the way the Boston Celtics are currently built. I feel like the best recipe for your team to win an NBA championship is to have two bona fide wings. The Clippers got Paul George. They got Kawhi Leonard. They just can't stay healthy. In the 90s, the Bulls had Michael Jordan. They had Scottie Pippen, and they won 6 NBA championships together. The Miami Heat, the Heatles, had LeBron. They had D-Wade. They won 2 championships in 4 years. So I believe that teams are trying to get what the Boston Celtics already have in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And they're young. And my thing is, you look back a few years ago, before Giannis went on his run, we doubted Giannis. People had doubts and questions about whether or not Giannis could ever win an NBA championship. Going into the playoffs this year, people had questions about Jokic because Jokic had not been able to get the Denver Nuggets over the hump. So I feel like you got to be a little bit more patient with the Boston Celtics. I would bring in a point guard who is a bona fide playmaker who can help the Boston Celtics if you're going to keep Jaylen Brown. But, Jonathan, with all that being said, if the Boston Celtics can get their hands on Damian Lillard and pair up Damian Lillard with Jason Tatum, I believe that's a move the Boston Celtics should make, because if you bring in Damian Lillard and team him up with Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard is exactly the opposite of what the Boston Celtics have been the last few years. We see in late game situations, the Boston Celtics struggle. They struggle from an offensive standpoint executing. You have no problems executing when Damian Lillard is a part of your team. Damian Lillard is a closer, and he is a bona fide superstar. And he is a true number one option. And so if Damian Lillard gets traded to the Boston Celtics, that would move Jason Tatum the number two option on their team. And I think that's a perfect situation for Jason Tatum to thrive in. And I believe that the Boston Celtics will be better with Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum compared to what they are with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But that's the only player that I would trade Jaylen Brown for. If I can't get a superstar for Jaylen Brown's services, I'm not giving up Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, well, if you get Damian Lillard, you got to make that move. I think that's a move that I would have. That's a move I would have made yesterday.
Let me ask you a question. If you get a player, I had one of my cousins, he's a barber. And so he had someone who was talking basketball in a barbershop a couple days ago. And he said that the Celtics should trade Jaylen Brown for a player like Hallenberg, the point guard out there in Indiana.
Indiana's not going to do that.
No, but would you, if you're the Celtics, would you? Why you feel like Indiana wouldn't do that?
I don't see Indiana making that move. Getting rid of sending Jaylen Brown to Indiana.
I know. I don't think the Celtics would do that move. I don't think the Celtics would do that move. But do you think the Pacers would do it?
No,
Jaylen Brown is better. Really,
no,
Jaylen Brown?
No, because Halliburton is on his way. He's on his way.
He ain't better than Jaylen Brown.
I think if you look, this is a Pacers team that's looking to rebuild. They're happy with the pieces that they have. They feel like they got something with Halliburton. I don't think they make that move. I think
Halliburton better than Jaylen Brown?
I think Halliburton has a bright future ahead of him in Indiana. Is he better than Jaylen Brown? I think that's a player they want to build around in Indiana.
But Jonathan, do you think Hallenberg is better than Jaylen Brown?
Not right now, but I don't see the Pacers doing that move.
Okay, so I don't think the Celtics would do that move, because I don't think the Celtics would be better with Hallenberg.
The Celtics will pull the trigger before the Pacers do.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think that the Boston Celtics want to split up the team that they have right now. And I think Jaylen Brown is one of those guys that would be the first to go.
Oh, I agree with he would be an asset you can move, but I don't think the Celtics want to give up.
He's clearly an asset you can move.
Yeah, but I don't think they want to give. I don't think they want to give up on Jaylen Brown. Brad Stevens said that Jaylen Brown is a priority for them. I disagree with you about the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown for Hallenberg. Jaylen Brown is better than Hallenberg. He's better. And if you're the Boston Celtics, you can't wait on Hallenberg to develop. The Celtics need to win now. But leave my Pacers the fuck alone. I'm not giving you Hallenberg for Jaylen Brown.
I'm telling you,
Jaylen Brown is better than Hallenberg. He's better. He's better. What do you mean? What are y'all talking about here?
Hey, you saw glimpses of what Halliburton could, what Halliburton can be.
The Celtics. So you think the Celtics will be better with Halliburton over Jaylen Brown?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you one more time. I want to make sure you understand.
Jaylen Brown is too inconsistent.
What?
But Indiana's not making that move. What did Jaylen Brown do in Game 7?
But wait a minute, Jonathan. That's not where I'm going with it. I know what you're saying about Game 7, but I'm asking you: do you believe that the Celtics would be better with Halliburton compared to Jaylen Brown?
I think they'll be more equipped with him. You can call me crazy for that.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
This is the Boston Celtics we talking about. Because you said Halliburton, he's developing into being a one of the best players in the NBA. Jaylen Brown is
have you watched him? He's a beast.
Jaylen Brown is a beast. Jaylen Brown was on the All NBA second team this year.
I get that, but he's too up and down for me.
But he averaged 20.
When they need him to show up the most, he doesn't. He did.
Jonathan, Jaylen Brown averaged 26 points per game this year.
That's fine.
What?
That's fine. But I'm moving on from him. Especially if I could package him in the deal to get Damian Lillard, I'm making that move. I'm making that move tomorrow.
Oh, I agree with that. But let me tell you something else. So if listen about how you're speaking about Jaylen Brown, that leads me to Halliburton over Brown.
Dylan says.
Never. Stop it, Dylan. Ain't no.
Look, another comment right here. It's exactly, and it's still getting better.
But the Celtics don't got time to wait for Halliburton to get better. This the Boston Celtics we talking about. They need to win the championship now.
While their window is open, I get it, but right. I think Halliburton will come over and make an impact on that team.
They can't make
an impact.
They can't wait on Halliburton
because you got to think about this too. The pressure is not really on him when he gets over there. See, the pressure is on him in Indiana because he is that guy. When he goes to Boston, he won't have as much pressure because he's playing alongside Jason Tatum and those other guys that's on that roster as well.
The Celtics would not be better with Halliburton in Boston compared to Jaylen Brown. They would not be better with the team that they better with the team they currently have than trading for him, to me. And so let me ask you this, because I guess listening to you speak, what I'm about to say is you probably gonna fall out your chair. I think Jason Tatum is better than Jaylen Brown is, but I don't believe that it's a significant gap. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are closer than people think. And they are, honestly, to me, Tatum and Brown are more equivalent than people really, really talk about. Like, I think Jaylen Brown is a bona fide star. I think Tatum is a bona fide star. I do believe that Tatum is better than Brown, but not by much. Do you think Tatum is significantly better than Brown is?
I think he can be. I think he can be. Absolutely. I think it's Jason Tatum's team at the end of the day.
Jonathan. Don't give me that can be. Who do you think is better? Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum? And do you think it's by
I think when Jason Tatum is fully healthy, I think he's better. But I don't think it's by a wide margin either.
Okay. So if that's the case, then you feel like that the Celtics can build around Jaylen Brown just as good as they can build around Tatum, right? Just as much as they can build around Tatum, they can build around Brown, right? Because you think they're equivalent players, right?
Yeah, but you got to build around one or the other, and I would rather build around Jason Tatum.
So would I. But what I'm saying is the only player I would trade Jaylen Brown for is a superstar, and that's Damian Lillard. I'm not trading Jaylen Brown for Halliburton. Halliburton's not good enough.
Got it. I get it. What you're saying, he's not a seasoned veteran like Damian Lillard. That's what you're saying. That he still needs time to grow and develop.
It's other players that's just as good as he is. Okay, I'm gonna name you some players that's better than Hallenberg to me. Right? Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards. Who you taking, Hallenberg or Anthony Edwards?
That's tough for me. That's tough because I like the
What?
flashes of maturity and athleticism that Halliburton showed last season. And Anthony Edwards is one of the most physical players in the game, and he uh has really uh morphed into a superstar over there in Minneapolis. So I like him too. That's a tough. You really put me on the spot here with this one. This one's tough. I'm gonna have to go with. Ooh, that's tough. I'm gonna have to go with Anthony. I'm gonna have to go with Anthony Edwards because Minnesota has gotten to the playoffs. So with Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards is better than Hallenberg. Okay. What about Trae Young or Hallenberg? Who are you taking?
Oh, I'm taking Trae Young.
Okay, these are players who are better than Hallenberg is. This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Y'all with Jaylen Brown, y'all disrespecting Jaylen Brown. Y'all really disrespecting JB.
I'm not disrespecting Jaylen Brown. I like Jaylen Brown. I'm just saying that he's too inconsistent. That's all I'm saying.
But if he ain't consistent, then Jason Tatum inconsistent.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, listen, Jaylen Brown
consistent, which is part of the reason why they didn't get to the NBA Finals.
Right, fair enough. But I'm gonna say this. He said Jaylen Brown got outplayed by Caleb Martin for 7 games. I agree. Caleb Martin outplayed Jaylen Brown. I don't understand how it happened, but it happened. I'm still trying to figure out to this day how Caleb Martin outplayed Jaylen Brown. But Jaylen Brown is a bona fide number 2 option on a championship team. Jaylen Brown averaged 26 points per game this year. Jaylen Brown made the All-NBA second team this season, which means he's a top 10 player in the NBA, right? If you make the All-NBA second team, you are viewed as a top 10 player. Tyrese Halliburton's stats since being traded to the Pacers: 82 games played, 20 points per game, 10 assists per game, double digits, and only in his 3rd year. I'm not saying Tyrese Halliburton won't develop into being a star. Jaylen Brown is already a star. No, I'm not saying Tyrese Halliburton won't develop into being a star in the NBA. Jaylen Brown is already a star. And it's the Boston Celtics we're talking about here, Jonathan. They got the most NBA championships tied with your Lakers in NBA history. You can't wait for Halliburton to develop into being a star. You got to win championships now. This is a championship organization.
I got it. Their championship window is still open. They're still one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. They went a year ago. They arguably could have found themselves in the same position they were in a year ago. They could have gotten back to the NBA Finals. They didn't. Their season fell short. I get what you're saying. I get it 100%.
Listen, absolutely. If I can't trade Jaylen Brown for the following players I'm about to name, then I'm not going to trade Jaylen Brown. If I can't trade for these following players: Steph Curry, Giannis, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Jokic, Embiid, maybe. Am I forgetting somebody? I'm just naming players off the top of my head who are the best in the NBA. Like, if I can't trade Jaylen Brown,
does this comment get you wild up?
Halliburton is more consistent than Jaylen Brown. He's showing up every night. Jaylen Brown is better right now at his best, but you only get his best 40% of the time, and Halliburton is younger. Dylan, come on, man. Y'all really disrespected Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown is a top 15 player in the NBA. He's a top 15 player in the NBA right now. Guess what? Most would take Ant over Brown. Stop
That's true.
Stop. Anthony Edwards?
I would take Anthony Edwards over Brown.
I'm not. Not yet. No. Y'all disrespecting Jaylen Brown, man. Y'all really, really is. Y'all is disrespecting that man right now. And
Oh
like, come on,
man.
man. Like, are y'all serious right now? Y'all really disrespecting Jaylen Brown. If I can't trade Jaylen Brown for Damian Lillard, Steph, Jokic, Kevin Durant, Embiid, like I'm thinking about the top 10 players in the NBA. Like even LeBron, I'm not trading Jaylen Brown. I got to get a superstar back in return for Jaylen Brown. If I get a,
I'm telling you, Damian Lillard would be the best trade for them.
I agree. I said that. If they can trade for Damian Lillard, I would listen. Yeah,
he's a guard who can run the offense and get the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, 1,000%. Look. Okay, so who's better to you, Donovan Mitchell or Jaylen Brown?
Oh, then I gotta choose Jaylen Brown. In that case,
okay.
Donovan Mitchell, man, I mean, there was times that he just wasn't there in the postseason. I don't know what happened, but he completely disappeared. And when his team needed him the most, he put up a clunker. He didn't even show up.
I agree, but guess what, Jonathan? The Cleveland Cavaliers, they view Donovan Mitchell as their number one. He's not a number one. Right? No. He's not.
You put him on another team, he's a second or third option at best.
Probably second option, I would say. I would say second option.
Depending on the roster and the makeup of the team.
Agreed. Okay, I got another one for you. Different position, but to me, they're on the same level. Jaylen Brown or Karl-Anthony Towns?
Jaylen Brown.
Okay, agreed. I agree. Jaylen Brown or De'Aaron Fox?
De'Aaron Fox. Did you see the season that he had? Did you see the season that he had? He was arguably the most clutch player in the NBA this past season.
De'Aaron Fox was balling this year for sure.
He was balling.
But I'm not sure if
he made a statement, and the Kings were one of the most talked about teams all season long. It was an incredible story. Mike Brown did a good job coaching that team, was well deserving of Coach of the Year. The Kings flipped the script. They turned their season around thanks to a guy like De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is a bad man, and this is a man that played with a banged up finger in the postseason.
Agreed. But I don't know if I'm taking him over Jaylen Brown yet. Maybe, I don't know. If you take De'Aaron Fox over Jaylen Brown, I ain't mad at you. But
because he's a freaky shooter. And
y'all talking as if Jaylen Brown is. Y'all talking as if Jaylen Brown is Tyrese Maxey.
At times he can be.
He's better than Tyrese Maxey.
He is better than Tyrese Maxey, but if you brought up the comparison, I'm just saying that at times he can be inconsistent like Tyrese Maxey.
Stop it. The problem with Jaylen Brown is, I will admit, Jaylen Brown's biggest problem is his ball handling. He got to become a better ball handler. I think he can score the basketball pretty well, but he doesn't handle the ball well. He got to become a better ball handler. So that's all he needs to work on in the offseason. De'Aaron Fox, Jaylen Brown. So Dylan, who's Jaylen Brown better than you? What? Jaylen Brown is equivalent.
Wait a minute. Equivalent to Jalen Brunson, the guy who went to New York, who was arguably the best free agent signing this offseason, and you're comparing him to Jaylen Brown? No, that's a terrible comparison. That's an unfair comparison. That is an insult to Jalen Brunson, because Jalen Brunson was a superstar for the New York Knicks this season. I don't know how many New York Knicks games you watch, but every time I watched him play, he was enjoyable to watch.
He was.
You know, he initiated the offense with his play in the backcourt, and he was the callus for that offense. That's why the Knicks got as far as they did. And that's why the Knicks had the season that they had, because Jalen Brunson he asserted himself as one of the top guards in this league with his impressive play on the floor.
Jaylen Brown better than Jalen Brunson.
I don't know. It's close.
Come on now. Y'all really disrespecting JB right now, man. It's unbelievable what y'all doing right now. Like, there's been times where Jaylen Brown has outplayed Jason Tatum. There's no shortage of guys putting up numbers with those 5 legit superstars. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown better than Julius Randle. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay. He better than Julius Randle for sure.
Yeah, he's better than Julius Randle. I mean, Julius Randle to me is not even the. I mean, I don't know if is he the second option on the Knicks?
He's supposed to be.
He should be.
Yeah,
but he doesn't always feel like the second option.
That's why the Knicks aren't championship contenders, because Julius Randle is your second option.
Now, Julius Randle at times doesn't show up either. He's had a lot of awful nights too.
Yeah, but just to recap, I want everybody to understand where I stand with this before we get out of here tonight. RJ Barrett has outplayed Randle. Agreed, Dylan. We agree there. But guess what?
Well, he was one of the most improved players on the roster this year.
He was. Jaylen Brown was for sure better than RJ Barrett. But I want everybody to know where I stand with this. If I'm the Boston Celtics, if I could get my hands on Damian Lillard, I make that move. I make that move in a heartbeat. He's not better than Brunson. Yeah, right. Jalen Brunson had one great year this year. He played great this year, but Jaylen Brown's better. But anyways,
Jalen Brunson was stellar with the Dallas Mavericks during their playoff last season too.
He was.
He stepped up big time in Luka's absence. That's what gave him the opportunity to get a big contract with the New York Knicks.
I think that
season in the playoffs.
Yeah. I do believe that if Damian Lillard got traded to the Boston Celtics, I believe that the Boston Celtics would be a better basketball team with Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum as their 1-2 punch.
I think that makes them a championship contender for sure. No question.
But they already a contender though.
They're scary, and imagine plugging Damian Lillard into the offense. That's scary.
Agreed. But with Jaylen Brown,
the league.
With Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum now, they already championship contenders.
True that.
For sure. But yeah, like I said, if I can't get a superstar, I'm not trading Jaylen Brown.
I hear you, man. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I'm excited for Game 3. Game 3 Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. on ABC. Denver Nuggets in Miami. I'm expecting a very, very pumped up crowd out down there in Miami, Jonathan, for Game 3. I believe that the Nuggets, Game 3 is a must win for the Nuggets. If the Nuggets go down 2-1, we both agree they would be in trouble. So Denver Nuggets need to win Game 3. If they lose Game 3, they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. I agree. They're fried. But the game is Wednesday, and I wish these games were every other night and not every 3 nights. I mean, that's ridiculous. I understand it's for ratings and TV and it's for TV and all that stuff. Ratings has a lot to do with it. Time slots, all that. So I understand, but I still think that's ridiculous. It should be every other day. These games should be played. I think they spaced them out too much. But we'll see what happened Wednesday night. Wednesday night will be Game 3 in Miami. The series now shifts to Miami. And before I go, I just want to say that you guys can find me on various platforms. You guys can find me right here on my fan page. If you guys watching the show live from the fan page, you guys can find me right here at the Sports Judge fan page. You guys can also find me on Twitter, the Sports Judge, Sports Judge 85. You guys can also find me on Instagram, Sports Judge 85. You guys can find me on TikTok, the Sports Judge 85. You guys can stay in touch with me. You guys can leave your comments, questions, and concerns. And Trey, tell the people where they can find you as well before we get out of here.
Wise Guys _H on Facebook. Wise Guys. Go follow my YouTube channel, Wise Guys Sports. Trey Larkins, TRE, and then Larkins, LARKINS. I'm on IG. On IG is Wise Guys _H. So yeah, go check me out on all social media platforms, and got some great content up for sure.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm always looking forward to your content and your new shows. You do great work as always, and like I always say, it's always a pleasure to work with you and collaborate with you on this show. I thank you once again for joining me on this show, and I want to thank all our viewers out there for taking the time out of your night to watch the show. None of this is possible without you guys, so I thank you guys so much. I thank you guys wholeheartedly for watching the show. I'm glad that you guys spent your time with me and Trey here as we broke down the NBA Finals, and we had a great discussion about things happening around the association. So appreciate all you guys out there. You guys have a good night. We'll see you guys when we see you guys again. We'll see you guys hopefully soon. Hopefully Wednesday, right, Trey? We'll probably do
Wednesday night. Yes, sir.
Okay, Wednesday night. We'll do another episode. So we'll see you guys back here Wednesday night for another episode of Speaking with Judgment. This show will also be live streaming on my YouTube channel, The Sports Judge. You guys can check it out there as well. You guys can check it out right here on Facebook. Till next time, you guys take care of yourselves. You guys have a great night. For me and Trey, take care. See you guys next time. It was another great episode with your guy, The Sports Judge, and my good friend Trey. We'll see you guys when we see you guys, which will be Wednesday night. Take care, everyone. Have a